Agata Starosz, VAGUE.VEGAN zawitała do nas do studia. Dzień dobry, hello.
Hi, hello.
Cześć. Dobrze cię tutaj mieć. Lubię podyskutować, podebatować i pohipotetyzować, bo jest to dla mnie ciekawe. It's fun. It's a hobby. Twoje słowa. Mam nadzieję, że będzie dzisiaj fun. Na pewno będzie dyskutowanie. Będzie tutaj omawianie niezwykle ważnych idei, jaką jest weganizm w Polsce. Spojrzymy na to z perspektywy społecznej. Na tym mi zależy i dziękuję, że z nami jesteś tutaj. Zrobimy to trochę inaczej. Zrobimy to w języku angielskim. Something different. I chciałbym wiedzieć, jak się z tym czujesz i czy miałeś już kiedykolwiek wywiad w języku obcym?
Chyba jeszcze nie, albo był to bardzo mały wywiad, o którym nie pamiętam, ale jestem pełna nadziei i myślę, że to będzie ciekawa rozmowa.
Dla tych, którzy są z nami po raz pierwszy, robimy to po to, żeby przełamać bariery językowe. Chciałem takie wprowadzenie wprowadzić, żeby pokazać, że akcenty są różne i wszystko jest okej. Jest tutaj miejsce na błędy, sami popełniam, nie ukrywam tego, bo o to tutaj chodzi. I have this feeling that veganism at its very core aligns with what I do in my podcast, because it makes us rethink how we see the world. We've been told something, we've been taught certain ideas, and now we are trying to question what we see as normal, what has been taught to us as normal, right? And I do the same here. We're often told that there is such a thing as perfect accent, perfect pronunciation, that making mistakes is bad. It's to the contrary. It's actually good. And I was wondering what would be a good opening question. And I think it actually links to language. Because when I think of veganism, it's way easier for me to express ideas in English than in Polish. I want to know if you feel the same.
Exactly. It's probably because a lot of research that I've done on veganism, I did in English. But those were the times where information was scarce in Polish. There weren't a lot of, maybe not the vegans, but veganism wasn't so popular as it is now in Poland back when I was first interested in it. So probably because I got all this info in English, it's much easier to express the ideas and discuss about it in this language. But I feel that maybe in Polish I would manage as well.
I think it links to this idea that, in Western countries, it's very mainstream. Like you talk about it in politics and like public spaces. And here, I don't want to say that we're still in Stone Age. It's not the case, but we're always like a step behind that. A little bit. And there is still this strong attachment to that real food equals meat. It's obviously culturally linked to us, to Poles. Do you also see that this narrative is not so common yet here in Poland?
I feel that veganism does not exist in political sphere. I'm not a specialist, I'm not an expert, so I don't want to say, but it should. I feel that it should, as it's so strictly connected to the environment and welfare of animals and so on and so on. So for me, it seems like an issue that should be considered in politics. But then, there are more important things still, especially in our country. So I'm not, so shocked that it's still not the case. Maybe it's not, it's also difficult to talk about it when you're in the bubble because
because we live in a bubble.
You see it everywhere when you are interested in the subject. So also I really don't know how it looks from the outside. What's the, objective perspective.
Right. I tell you what, I've lived in Netherlands for 3 years, in Belgium a year and a half. And when I was entering the shop, everything was so accessible. You had lanes that were dedicated for vegans, vegetarians, non-dairy products.
Perfect, segregation.
Indeed.
Like it.
And then I go to the Polish stores. Obviously, it's a generalization, but still, it's not so accessible. And I want to know, what do you think are the reasons why this difference still exists, right? Because for me, I was vegan for a year when I lived abroad because it was just easier for me to do shopping. It was accessible. Why do you think it's still less common to talk about it, this issue in Poland?
I'm not sure I agree with this because from my point of view and from my experience, it used to be difficult to shop vegan. But right now, in comparison with, let's say, roughly 10 years ago when I first started being interested in the subject, back then it was difficult. I remember I had to go, I don't know, like 4 or 5 kilometers to a corner shop that sold vegan milk, like, you know, that it wasn't soy milk that I couldn't digest back at the time. And I was like looking for a coconut or, you know, like cashew, almond, and they had that. Of course, it cost, I don't know, like 20 zlotys. And it was such a big trip to do just for a liter of plant-based milk. Whereas now, any corner shop, the most popular one in Poland, you will get it. Any you know, like anywhere you go, you get vegan products. Of course, I'm talking about Warsaw and other big cities.
Which in itself is a bubble.
Yeah, again, bubble and a lot of privilege, let's admit that. But it wasn't like that also in Warsaw. Like I have this comparison. So I wouldn't say that vegan products are not accessible. Comparing it to the 10 years ago, let's say, so many more substitutes, True. Better, like prices are much lower, much more accessible. So I think if you want to start right now, it's much easier to do it than it used to be because also restaurants, people know what veganism is. Like even if a restaurant doesn't have, you know, vegan options on the menu, you still can ask, like, you know, is there any option to get vegan food, or maybe you can prepare it without cheese or whatever, and they are not looking at you like you're a crazy person. They understand, they know that people don't eat animal products. They become aware of that. Yeah. So I would say it's not that difficult as it might seem for, I don't know, maybe people who are on a conventional diet and are not interested in the subject. They do not know any vegans or vegetarians and, you know, they are outside the bubble.
Partnerem podcastu jest Tutlo, szkoła angielskiego online, która tak jak ja pomaga przełamywać bariery w mówieniu.
I want to touch upon the topic of resistance because I did some research and what really surprised me was that people dislike vegans enough that scientists do research about it. They research why it's the case. And there was one study that I really found interesting, and it included minority groups, gay people, lesbians, people of color.
And still vegans were the most
addicts, and then vegans were just above addicts. And I was shocked. You know, I was really shocked, and it really puts you into that perspective that there's vegans who stand for good rights, good reasons, and then they're still somehow disliked. We will be getting into that and analyzing why do you think it's the case. But my question for you is, opening question, why do you think this resistance is deep? Because it is a societal problem in my eyes, or you may not agree with that.
I agree with everything that you say in this case. I think it stems from the fact that when you first become vegan, you are so obsessed with the subject because if it resonates with you, you know it's good. You know, oh my God, like why no one told me this? Why I only learn about all those issues right now? Why we don't talk about it enough? And you are just like, you feel, you know, like kind of lied to for a part of your life. Maybe angry because so many people are unaware of that. And I feel that a lot of vegans, especially new vegans, have this urge to tell others and to convert them to veganism because they feel like, oh, maybe you do not know it as well, and you will react the same way I reacted because they feel like they genuinely feel that it's a good reaction, to be shocked and, angry that animals are exploited, that the environment is being destroyed, and so on and so on. So I feel like it's not coming from, it's not anything bad that they feel like it, but, it's about maturity, I think.
Right.
Like, you cannot impose your beliefs on different people because there is no difference between doing that and, I don't know, overly religious people. Overly, of course, like that might sound like I am no one to judge what is religious enough or over religious, just to make it like the conversation simpler. Making them like coming to you and saying, oh, you should believe in this, or you should do that 4 times a day or 3 times a month or whatever. You should eat this, not that. You should, I don't know, meet with this person, not that person. It's exactly the same when vegans come to you and say, you cannot eat meat, you cannot eat eggs, you cannot wear leather shoes, and so on and so on. It's very aggressive and very imposing. And the research is extremely interesting for me as well, because when I was vegan, 100% vegan in terms of diet and lifestyle, I still didn't want to call myself vegan. I did it only when someone asked me. And also, like, I didn't want to be part of the group of people that were,
Imposing,
and also like that society thought that are so, rigorous about it. And it's just, it wasn't mine, so I didn't want to participate in it. Yeah, so it just wasn't the community. I felt like, oh, I want to be part of it.
We'll be getting into that, about this imposing, because it's really interesting for me and I have my own thoughts about it. But about this research, it's problematic for me because we hear about like sexism, homophobia, right? But we don't really hear about vegaphobia. But it's actually the case. It's a term that I found that appeared in the second decade of 2000. So it's kind of like we will be getting into that we have this prejudice against minority groups just because we are in the majority and we have the power over them, I think. And we have this passive-aggressive narrative, I think. So I give you an example, right? You tell me as a vegan person that you should stop, doing this or that. And then that person that you talk to also becomes passive-aggressive. So I feel like this kind of polarizing both groups, which we'll be getting into. And there is this fear of the unknown, I feel like. So I'll give you an example. I have my own, not me, but a person X has their own dietary choices. And then somebody tells them that you should do this or that. And there is this fear of unknown. And many times we prefer to be more comfortable with our own choices and not be open to other choices, right? Would you agree with that it's the case?
Yeah, completely. Because with so many different things, fields, and so on, there is this saying that change has to come from within. No one can make you, of course, people can make you do things, but still, it's going to be real only when you want to do it, right? You're going to do it well. When you want to do it.
Be mature enough.
Yeah, and you're going to be okay with it only when you decide, I'm going to do it, right? When it's, forced on you, it will never feel real or be real, even if you were going to do it, right?
Right. And there's this thread of identity that I also find interesting because we Poles, for example, like to eat meat, and then we think, oh my God, now we have to stop doing that, that our cuisine is endangered, which for me is ridiculous because it's not. we get defensive as people from this majority, which leads to this polarized them versus us mentality. I want to touch upon that now, because I do think it really creates this division, and I don't like that. I want to know, what do you have to say about that? Why can't we find a common ground and just accept that people just eat differently? Because and it's okay.
I think that this common ground is, it's a compromise, right? And none of the sides wanna compromise, right? So for me, and I'm not an activist. I never wanted to be an activist. As I said, like, I didn't communicate. I was a vegan to my friends, to people. Like, of course, people knew, but it wasn't like in the joke, like how to know someone's vegan, like just wait, they're going to tell you. I wasn't doing that. But then when I started my social media, I decided on name and so on and so on. Still, I didn't post a lot of vegan propaganda, just vegan recipes sometimes, and so on and so on. And what I'm trying to say is I always wanted to show that you don't have to identify so much with your dietary...
Label, right?
Yeah, put a label, identify with your dietary choices, like, say, like, make this the most important thing out of you. And also that when you become vegan, now you have to be the activist. You have to do the vegan propaganda. You have to convert people into veganism. No, you don't have to do that. You don't have to say that. What's most important, you don't have to be vegan all the time. Anything that you do that minimizes animal consumption is good. And whenever anybody asked me about my diet, my dietary choices, I would always say that you don't have to be perfect. You can choose one day that you don't eat meat. You can choose to, eat vegan all the time, except for eggs, except for cheese.
You can be flexible.
Yeah, you can be flexible.
Plastic.
So there are so many options for you to choose from if you are interested in the subject. If we can talk about it, we can find this common ground. There is space for that, in my opinion, but the narrative has to change, because what you said, being passive aggressive, like, make other people be passive aggressive, and there's no way around it in my mind.
It's a cycle that just continues.
Yeah. So something has to change. We have to start. Actually, I think everything starts with a conversation, like, as we see anything that we are polarized about how to start. Well, let's talk. Let's find a way that's going to be good for both sides.
Meat paradox. Have you heard of it before?
I don't think so.
So it's kind of like, I care about animals and I don't want to harm them, but I enjoy eating meat, so I know that they are harmed. It's this paradox, you see, that you have beliefs, but your actions are different from those values or beliefs. So it's a bit contradictory.
Okay.
What you do. I'm like this, right? That I consume meat, I love animals, and I don't want them to get harmed. Yet you are in this cycle of, I'm actually part of that, And it's really interesting from, like, psychological point of view, that, like, you live with this contradiction, but you just forget about that. Yeah. You just live with that. And there is this discomfort sometimes. Sometimes I catch myself like, oh shit,
I don't feel good after eating.
Yeah.
Okay.
But people use strategies. So one of them is denial.
Okay, yeah.
So denial
Favorite
goes,
one?
animals don't feel pain like we do. It's what people say.
Okay, that's interesting.
Another strategy is people distance themselves.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't know where my food comes from. I just eat it. It's just something that I need to consume. And people also justify that it's natural. Everyone else does it. Or, like, majority of people do it, right? So I think it's interesting to also see this from this perspective. Did you face any resistance from friends or family when you told them that you are this flexible when it comes to eating vegan or vegetarian? Because I feel like sometimes people can be judgmental towards you.
Not
towards you.
Not my family, not
So
my
the bubble
friends.
is good.
Yeah, the bubble is. I live in a vegetarian bubble.
Right.
Actually, like so many people around me are vegetarian or eat only on occasion. Like like there is this big event, and I know the chef's gonna be someone very popular, and I wanna try it, or I'm somewhere where local meat is very good, and I want to try it. So I am surrounded by people that are mainly vegetarian. I've got a lot of friends, meat eaters, but it's really never like subject. Nobody ever judged me that when I was vegan that I occasionally ate an egg or a pizza, and now no one's judging me when I'm saying I eat plant-based as a base of my diet, but then I also eat eggs. I also eat cottage cheese.
Right.
That I know I feel good after eating that. So no one is judging me. But then on the internet, so many people did that.
Right.
Because and I'm not even, shocked or angry or whatever, because I get it that people in so many different things are led by labels, as we said, by things, everything has to be black or white, and it's either good or bad. You're either a vegan or not. And they need this to navigate the world, their life, because it's easier. Of course, it's easier when you have those labels. It's easier to navigate your life, but it's not how it works.
No,
There's
so
many in-betweens,
well.
gray areas, and so on and so on. And just showing that, okay, so let those comments tackle me because I don't care about it. Because as I said, I'm surrounded with people that understand my choices. So I don't care about that. Let them hit me. So I want to be an example. You see, you can do it. You can say you eat vegan diet, but then on the weekends, go and have a cheat meal, if we can call it like that. Or you can be, as I said, vegan for everything except for bacon, even. If that's the only thing staying, being an obstacle between you and vegan diet, eat vegan and eat bacon. That's such a great, option to minimize consumption of animal-based products. It's still amazing if you're not going to eat animal products except for bacon. You can do it. Really, there is no vegan Bible, what you can do or not. Somebody that will come to you and give you a fine if you ate something that it's not vegan. And you told 2 weeks ago that you're going vegan. It's not going to happen. You're not going to have to pay money to anybody. Right. You're not going to be tortured or whatever. You can say you want to be flexible. More vegan, flexible. You want to eat plant-based and still eat something that it's not vegan. It's still going to be better for the animals, for the environment. A lot of people would say it's going to be better for your health. I'm not a specialist. I'm not a doctor, not a dietitian, so I don't want to say that, especially that there is research that say, different things on both diets. So I know there are specialists in cherry picking. I don't want to do that. I don't feel like, I have the knowledge to do and say that. So still, environment and animals, it's enough for me to back up that argument.
Exactly. That's my follow-up question. What is it for you? Is it a lifestyle? Is it philosophy? Is it something that's... Because it's close to you, but what is it? Because you can have different reasons, right? Ethical, moral, environmental, animals. What is it for you?
It started as health reasons, I think. I'm trying to remember, but it really quickly became ethical as soon as I learned about it. Because at first, I really didn't know. It was this, what you said, the meat paradox. I knew it was animal, but, like you don't think how it comes to your plate. You know, the animal had to be killed and it was alive at some point, and now it's not. But you never question that. No. You never think about that process unless you are, you have vegetarian parents or whatever. Maybe that's a different story. But for most of us, I think, in a few generations, like from, I don't know, a few decades ago, that's the conventional way. You don't question where meat comes from, where food comes from on your plate.
It's just there. Yeah. It's on the plate, right?
Yeah. So I was shocked. I didn't want to believe it. So it was ethical. It started to be ethical very quickly. And then as a philosophy as a whole, like, I love the ideas. I love the beliefs. But as I said, I so don't want to be, put next to those aggressive vegan activists that I really tried to not be identified with them. So It's difficult for me to say, like, oh yeah, I love the philosophy, because, like, as I said, the ideals, the beliefs, I'm all in it.
I like that.
Yeah, but the people, like,
we'll be getting into that in the end. But I want to debunk some myths, because there are some myths about veganism. And I'm going to go one by one. And I want your opinion on that. The first one is, you don't get enough protein on vegan diets.
It depends. There are different things that we can, like, tackle this issue. Mm-hmm. Because first of all, what is enough protein? To be deficient in protein, you have to eat really, really low protein diet to be deficient in a way that it would affect your health. You can, like, be a bodybuilder, then the protein deficiency would be, like, almost every day, probably. You're protein deficient if you want to build muscle, like crazy muscle mass. So it really depends on what we are talking about. I was never protein deficient on a vegan diet, but I felt I needed more protein. Like, what is the norm is okay. I felt like, yeah, I'm not, I'm not the strongest. I'm not the most active because I'm not eating enough. And I wasn't eating enough eating enough protein, because there is difference between animal protein and plant-based protein. There are a lot of amazing sources of protein on vegan diet.
That is very much true.
But a lot of them come from legumes, beans, legumes, and soy. I think it's another one that is really well known. And when you have some food allergies and some, I don't know, preferences, you might not like beans. Just like I don't really like them. Like, I will eat them if someone serves me, like beans or I don't know what it's called, chickpea. I'll eat it, but it's not something I would choose to eat myself. Like, I'm not really a big fan of it. And I would have to eat it every day to get the right amount of protein. And I don't feel well also after those foods. So, like, by observing, I could, like, see that it's not working. That was one of the reasons why I decided to get back to basically vegetarianism as a label, like, if we have to label it. So I get it that people are saying it. It's true that you can get a lot of protein on a vegan diet, but it's not going to be for everybody. So it is a myth, but to be completely honest, I understand when people are, I don't know, maybe like not really sure about that subject, because it really, you have to think about it. Whereas on a conventional diet, you don't really have to think that much about protein, unless you're, like professional weightlifter, bodybuilder or whatever, or you really want to like build muscle, that's your goal. But then you're gonna be a little obsessed on your diet any way, so you're gonna think about protein. Whereas someone like random person on a conventional diet, they don't really think that much about protein, and it's good. They don't feel that they are deficient. So not a myth, but I see where it comes from, and I'm not gonna say, oh no, like you can get your protein from plants. Yes, you can, but it might not be for you. It might not work the best.
Another one. Veganism is expensive. And we kind of talked about it before, right?
Yeah.
That the prices change and you can find affordable products also. What do you have to say about that?
I would say that there were times that it was affordable back when, before inflation, when you had vegan diet and you shopped vegan without the substitutes. It was really great way to, like, take care of your budget. And, when I stopped eating meat and then dairy, mainly cheeses, I was like, oh my God, like I pay so little for my groceries. It was amazing because like all I did, it was like vegetables. Yeah, vegetables, fruits, and occasionally this expensive substitute, but it would cost, I don't know, like what... I have no idea.
So this is the alternatives which are more expensive.
Yeah, but like side. Still when I would wanted to eat bacon, it would cost the same as this, liter of plant-based milk back in the days when it was expensive. So right now it's really difficult. And also I don't want to do that because it's privileged.
Right.
But I think everything is so expensive that it's difficult to say that is not a myth. It is expensive. The substitutes are expensive, but also meat is expensive. Also cheeses are. Come on, eggs, they are so expensive. So I don't want to tell people like, oh, you're gonna save money when vegan. Yeah, because vegetables and fruits are also so expensive in comparison to what they were. So it's so difficult. I would like to say that it's a myth, but it's not, with, this addition that everything is so expensive.
Another one. One person going vegan doesn't make a difference.
I think it is a myth because it makes a difference. It really makes a difference. We can, in regards to big companies and so on, people are laughing at, plastic straws, that I'm drinking my smoothie through the paper straw, that it's getting soggy. And those big companies are, dumping tons and tons of waste into the oceans. Yeah, okay, they shouldn't be doing that. And I know that it seems like an individual cannot do a lot in terms of, environmental issues. But then when you think about how much, for example, the accessibility to vegan products changed in the last few years, you will see, well, those were all those individuals, all those people that's said, okay, I'm going to start eating vegan. And that's what made the market launch more vegan products, made the shops, sell them, and they are much more accessible only because of the individuals. So yeah, I think it makes
because
a lot of
individuals
difference.
turns into collective action, right?
Yeah,
if they're
exactly.
So it makes up the individuals. Humans are meant to eat meat. All those myths I found on Google, obviously. And it says that it's natural. First of all, we need to define what's natural.
Yeah.
Because we got used to it. Because that's what society told us, right? That this is what you have on a plate. What do you have to say about that? Because I do think that we can thrive on animal diet without this need of searching for that, right?
And for so many years we did, because before veganism was that popular, right? Well, there was a time, and I'm still feeling it. I know it's not the best of arguments right now, but there was a time that it resonated with me so well, this what's natural. 30,000 years ago, our bodies are not that different. Like we didn't evolve in terms of like our, GI
Digestive
tract.
system,
And
yeah.
So it really spoke to me. I really liked those arguments. And I still see it that, like we're hunter-gatherers, but the hunters didn't provide a lot of foods. The gatherers provided 80% of the calories in the diet. So I get it that meat was scarce. And that's what I still think is the best option. Just eat meat, but much, much less of it. And, also talking about like what is natural and what's not. Of course, some might argue that it is natural or not or whatever, but the times are changing. Like 100 years ago, we didn't work as much, we didn't think as much, like the society changes, our jobs change. Like so many of my friends, they do not work typical hours. They are always available on the weekends, wherever we go somewhere together for a weekend, it's a workation. Everybody has their laptop or whatever. So everybody has something to do, a project to finish, or at least an email to send, like something to manage, let's say. So even thinking about that, maybe we didn't need that much meat thousands of years ago, maybe because our brains didn't need that much calories and fat and so on. I'm just speculating right now. Like these are not my arguments or whatever. I'm just thinking out loud that, it's not the best of arguments what's natural, because everything is changing and we do not have research to support it,
Right.
because it takes time. It takes years to check, to research your diet and the impact it has on your body. So I think that in today's world, we can get by without meat. We know enough. We have substitutes. We have access to foods that are nutrient dense, and we can be perfectly healthy. So, yeah, just to shorten all of this that I just said, I would say it's a myth.
Partnerem podcastu jest Tutlo, szkoła angielskiego online, która tak jak ja pomaga przełamywać bariery w mówieniu.
And the last one, we already discussed that. And based on what you said, it's not a myth. So the last one is vegans are pushy. They force their ideas on others. And there is a quote of yours that I found. It goes as follows. Nadgorliwość jest gorsza od faszyzmu.
Yeah,
I takie wmawianie ludziom, którzy nie są zainteresowani tematem wege, jeszcze bardziej ich odpycha. I odtrąca od próby przejścia na bezmięsną dietę. I want to touch upon that because I've met so many vegans people who do not want to be associated with them being vegans because of that. But just because there is one person doesn't mean that it's everyone.
Yeah,
also,
it's a huge generalization.
Right? We generalize.
Huge. Yeah. And we do it all the time. And, sometimes it is useful. Like we cannot talk about issues and ideas without generalization, but then it's so harmful because we are, even us talking right now about it, I think it reinforces this stereotype of a pushy vegan. Yeah. And it's not good, but how to talk about it without it. So I would say that you have to find your people. And there are so many vegan creators that are not pushy, that are really inspirational, that are saying things like, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to go all in at the beginning. You can try it. You can change it. You can search for an option that it's most sustainable for you.
Find the balance, really, right?
Yeah. And just find what resonates with you. Find creators, find people that are saying things that make you feel good. That sounds kind of like, you don't want to take criticism or whatever. I'm not saying that, but if you want to get inspired, just find people that inspire you, not that are, I don't know, like making you angry because of what they are saying, right? Or making you feel bad even, because that was big part of vegan community, shaming people and making them feel bad for eating meat. And, you know, like that was, I think, the worst part and the biggest contributor to the push vegan stereotype.
Yeah, and also to that division, right?
Yeah.
That if somebody reinforces something on you, you come across as passive-aggressive also.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's, you know, like when anybody wants to talk with me about it, ask me questions, ask about my experience, I'm here to talk to you about it. I love talking about it. I love like having, you know, discussions. I want to see your point. What are you scared about? Like when transitioning and so on and so on. I'm here for you to talk about it. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to give you medical advice, of course, but, you know, like just talking from experience. But then if you don't come to me interested in the subject, I just come to you, impose my beliefs on you, just like we said. It's no different than like religious people imposing their beliefs on you. It's exactly the same. And do we like that? Do we like things that are forced on us? No,
because you get the opposite result many times.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So discussion seems like it's a key to find this common ground. But even discussing, people can still feel judged. I know I'm like digging, right? I know, but it's important, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not just about conversation. It's about having an open conversation and about having this willingness to listen.
Yeah.
Because you may listen, but it just doesn't come inside of you. A question I have is, how can we do that? Obviously, it's an open question, but, you know, talk about this stuff without making someone feeling judged, because that's key to, that's the starting point, I think.
Yeah, just like you say, like not judging, being open, you know, like tolerate different opinion, tolerate different, well, I'm going to say it again, being vegan is a privilege. It's not something like vegans like to say anybody can do it. No, not anybody can do it. Really, if you don't have time, you work 2 jobs, you have kids, you're not going to be thinking about, you know, giving enough protein in meals for kids, thinking about shopping vegan when you don't have time for it. You don't have the resources to buy those food, to buy supplements, because like you have to supplement on a vegan diet, even on a vegetarian diet, even on a conventional diet most of the time. But it's crucial when on vegan diet to supplement some vitamins. And we are talking from a like privileged standpoint. So I would say that, you know, being open and taking into consideration different situations, that's the most important thing while talking with people that are willing to eat less animal products. But maybe our objective shouldn't be turn everyone vegan. It might be like making them or convincing them that it's possible, that it's easy to
plant a seed.
Yeah, plant a seed.
Offer
exactly.
perspective.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's going to be much more efficient, this type of conversation, than guilt-tripping people that are not in a point in life that can do that, right?
Right. Because it's a privilege.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't have the needs to.
Yeah, exactly.
To do that.
Exactly.
And the open conversation is something that I would also
I also like it's a hill I'm willing to die on, as you
Ostatnie
say.
pytanie językowe od sponsora odcinka. Is there an English word or phrase you think perfectly captures the spirit of veganism? It's a hard one.
A word or a phrase that captures the spirit of veganism. Compassion, maybe. I would say that's like so vegan. oriented.
It is.
Such a vegan-oriented word.
It is this. And I truly hope that we can share this compassion.
Yeah.
And
yeah. In any percentage, like really, we don't have to go all the way with it, right? It could be as much as you can at this point in your life, and that's going to be enough, right?
Agata, dziękuję Ci bardzo za rozmowę.
Dzięki
Piąteczkę.
wielkie.
Mamy to.